Hi everyone, welcome to the second Chinese video. In this video we will start our Chinese vowels and we'll cover A, E, and I in this video, and in the next video we'll finish up O, U, and the schwa sound, and even start the consonants because there aren't many consonant rules for Chinese. So let's jump right into the Chinese vowels. Remember I mentioned before that in the first video that Chinese isn't too complicated. It's very simple. There are usually more than one way to spell a certain sound, and we'll run into some of those in this video as well. And the thing to remember is that for Chinese, because there are so few words in English from Chinese, even in the dictionary, even used in spelling bees, if two spellings seem equally probable, it's best to just go ahead and memorize them because there aren't that many Chinese words in general. So we'll run into some of those, and I'll repeat that again just to say that, it's okay to memorize some of the Chinese words. It's not like Latin or Greek where there are thousands of words and you should know the rules. In Chinese, there are rules, of course, but if you ever get stuck, it's best to memorize or just memorize those words because there's, again, not a lot of them. So let's start with Chinese vowels. We'll start with A, of course. So A, and we'll look at the different sounds that come from or that relate to A. And the first one we're going to look at is our A with two dots. Okay, and this is pronounced ah. Okay, ah. And in Chinese, this is one of those where there are actually multiple ways to spell it. Mostly though, it's mostly going to be A. The two main ways to spell it is with an A or with an O, and we'll look at some examples. The first way though, I think most of the time it's going to be an A. As is with most Asian languages, especially at the ends of words. For sure, it doesn't make much sense to end a word with the letter O and still have it make the ah sound, because usually then it makes the O sound. So especially at the end of words, and also especially if it comes before an ng, the sound, and this usually applies to somewhat longer words, and you'll see what I mean right away. So A mostly, especially at the end, and usually before ng words. And we'll jump right into some examples. Let's just look at the other spelling. The other spelling is the letter O. And the letter O for the ah sound happens with shorter ng words. The A happens with longer words that have ng. The O happens with shorter ng words, maybe 4-letter words or 5-letter words. And then there are some exceptions. So let's jump right into the examples. So first off, with an A at the end of the word, Qingma is an example. Put it up here, Qingma. See, it ends in the ah sound, and that's why we have the A there. It would not make sense to put an O there because then it would be Qingmo. So Qingma. And then remember, before the ng, usually if the word is a bit longer, like sanglé, which is S-A-N-G-L-E-Y, sanglé, and this is basically a Chinese trader. That's what it means. And see, that's why we have the A right there before the ng, the ang. And this also goes for the word mahuang, M-A-H-U-A-N-G, and here we have the A representing the ah sound twice actually. Here at the beginning, mahuang. Here again, before that ng. And you can see these are somewhat longer words, maybe 7, I think they both are 7-letter words. So a little bit on the longer side. When we have shorter ng words, we can use O, such as tong, like T-O-N-G. And here it doesn't look right to put an A because then it would look like tang. So tong, and Tong is actually a secret society. Usually it's like a secret Chinese society in the United States. So that's a great example. Also, like if you think about like Hong Kong, that has this rule. It might be easy to remember. So Hong Kong like has the O before the ng again. So that's just an easy way to remember this rule. Okay, so O is not as common, but if there are shorter ng words, then definitely use an O. O's can be used in other examples, such as wok, W-O-K. You've probably heard of this. It's like a cooking utensil, like a frying pan. So wok. Also, Wongshi. Let me put it down here. Wongshi, W-O-N-G-S-H-Y. This is a kind of tree. So O is used in other instances, so it's kind of 50-50 with A and O. If you're not sure though, it's probably a little bit of a safer bet to go with an A. There is one exception to this rule, which is the word lauda, and it's L-A-O-D-A-H, and it's one of the only, I think it's the only Chinese word that ends with an AH for the ah sound. So that's just an exception. And this word has two spellings, so just something to look out for. This is like an exception. Okay, but usually we have that A or that O for the ah sound. So it's not too bad. Two options. So definitely not that bad. So now we can go on to the next sound with the letter A. And this is just this short A sound, which is pronounced ah. So let me erase this and we'll get right to that. Alright, so this sound is basically our just normal A, and it's pronounced ah, like cat. And of course the rule for this one is definitely not as complicated, just one way to spell it really, and it's with an A. And usually this occurs in the middle of a word in Chinese, so it's pretty simple to see, pretty simple to recognize, and very easy to spell. So an example of a word is Langshan, Langshan, which is L-A-N-G-S-H-A-N, very Chinese word. You have it twice, Langshan, spelled with an A. It's a kind of bird. So yeah, this rule, really there's no exceptions to it. So that's very simple. And that actually concludes A. Now we can go on to E. Okay, now E gets a little bit interesting, again, because there are some options in how you can spell certain sounds. So we have the letter E, and the first sound we're going to look at is our long E, or E with the line over it. And this is pronounced E, okay, E. It's like it's saying its own name. Mainly in Chinese, there are two ways to spell this sound, this E sound. Okay, two ways. The first way, and the reason I'm putting them both up is because they are very equally probable. It's not like one is more common than the other. The first way is an I, and the second way, you've probably guessed, is an EE. Okay, so an I or a double E, and these are the two ways to spell the E sound in Chinese. Unfortunately, there is no really like a rule dictating, you know, whether I is more common in the middle or EE is more common in the end, but there are some patterns. From what I've noticed, the EE does tend to come a little bit more towards the end of the word, if it's especially at the end, like words like Sycee, S-Y-C-E-E, and this is basically it's a silver currency, so Sycee has that EE, and then we have Tasatlee, T-S-A-T-L-E-E. Again, at the end of the word, we have the E-E, and this is a rough silk. Silk is very common in China, so that's a great word. So see, these two come at the end of the word. An example with an I would be Pidan, P-I-D-A-N, and this is like duck eggs. So here we have it in the middle of the word. I'm not saying that always at the end it's going to be E-E and in the middle it's going to be I, but if you're stuck, that's probably a good way to go. Really, these two sounds and spellings can occur anywhere in the word, but this is kind of a pattern that, you know, might come into play. So if you're ever guessing, and if and the E sound is in the middle of the word, go with an I. Or if it's at the end of the word, go with an EE. It might work out for you. The thing is, though, these are not the two only ways to spell the word. They are the main ways. There are a few exceptions. One, there's actually two exceptions, and we'll just go through those two words because it's better to learn them, right? If you know them. So the first one is bohea. It's B-O-H-E-A. It doesn't really look Chinese, but that E-A represents the E sound, and it's a kind of black tea. The second word is Kylin, K-Y-L-I-N. And here we have a Y for the E sound. And this is basically like a unicorn of Chinese myth, so it's another interesting word. But these two are the exceptions, and the only two exceptions. Otherwise, all Chinese words utilize an I or an EE for the for the long E sound. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's probably best to memorize a Chinese word if you come across it that has this sound, because the chance of it actually being used is very slim. There aren't many Chinese words in the dictionary, so it's best to memorize those kinds of words. Okay, so the second E sound we're going to look at is the short E sound, which is pronounced eh, like egg. And again, luckily for us, there's only one way to spell it, which is just with an E. Very simple, you've probably guessed it, just with an E, no other exceptions. Example would be renminbi, renminbi. And this is a currency of China, again. So we have that E for the S sound. Very simple, not much to think about here. So E for the S sound. And that concludes E for us. Now we can finish up by looking at our next vowel, I. Alright, so we have I here. And the first one we're going to look at is the short I sound, which is just I, and it's pronounced I, as in bit, just I. And this is another one of those simple ones. You just spell it one way, spell it with an I. And again, this sound is actually not common in Chinese at all. So if you do run into it, it's probably spelled with an I, and it's not a common sound in general. And we've already seen two words that have this rule. Renminbi, which we just saw, is one of them. See right there with the min, it's very simple, use an I, renminbi. Also Keilin, we saw, the unicorn. We have it right there for the lin. So renminbi and Keilin are great examples for this rule. Not much to think about here either. So that's the short I sound. And now we will finish up with the long I sound, which is again not too bad. So our long I sound is our I with a line over it. It's I saying its own name, so it's pronounced I. And again, there is one common spelling. Mostly it's going to be spelled with an AI, as we saw in Japanese as well. This is a very common thing for Chinese words, mostly AI. There are a few exceptions though, and the main exception would be the letter Y. It's not as common. This is definitely more common, but this isn't a good exception which could occur. I, though, can happen at the end of the word, in the middle of the word, anywhere really, but the Y, if it does come up, it would actually never happen at the end of the word, because that would make it an E sound. So if it's at the end of the word, the I sound, then you're almost sure it's going to be AI. Anywhere else, you would have to think between the two, but AI is a better bet. And two words we can look at with this. One is Taiping. Not like typing on a computer. This is Taiping. The stress is on the second syllable. Taiping. In our English word typing, the stress is on the first syllable. It's typing, not typing. There's a slight difference there. But Taiping is basically, it means like a Chinese rebel who like rebelled against the Manchu dynasty. And there we have our AI right there, very simple, Taiping, and it's in the middle of the word. A similar word is Taipan. Okay, and here we have our AI, and this again is very similar to that. I just thought of Taiwan as well. That can help you remember this rule, maybe the AI right there. So again, we see the AI is pretty much the main way to spell the I sound. Now the exception, like I said, would be a Y. An example of that is Hyson, Hyson, and this is actually, it means green tea. So this is just one of the exceptions, but usually for the I sound, we're going to spell it with an AI. So if you're ever stuck, this is the way to go, with the AI. Okay, so that concludes our I sound. We've covered A, E, and I in this video. And in the next video, we'll finish up the vowels with O and U and the schwa sound. We're lucky because the schwa sound in Chinese is not as difficult as it is in other languages. So that's something to look forward to. And also we'll start our consonants. There are not many consonant rules for Chinese, pretty much because the Chinese characters have been translated into English, what's called pinyin. I mentioned this in the first video. That's the reason why most of the consonant sounds are spelled as they would be in English. So not too many deviations there. So we'll look at those consonants, we'll finish up these vowels, and then in the last Chinese video we'll go back and use all these rules that we've been learning and apply those to those 10 sample words that we saw in the last video. Thank you. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye!